Joe Biden is finally taking action for the people. He is meeting with many leaders to get the Build Back Better bill passed as soon as this month, and the IRS finally released some new information for when their next relief packages will be sent out. So yes, everybody, relief checks are here.
Okay, I'm proud to be joined by our leadership team of Senators Durbin, Murray, and Stabenow. So we had a great lunch today, really a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of new ideas on focusing on lowering costs for working families. What's on the dining table, cost of food. We're coming up with solutions to address these issues.
Here's some breaking news, everybody. The IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig has just sounded the alarm over the IRS's massive backlog of unprocessed returns, which he warned could lead to a challenging tax season. The IRS Commissioner acknowledged that millions of people are still waiting for prior year's tax returns to be processed, as well as refund checks to arrive in the mail, but committed to returning to normal inventory levels before next year. So that's some good news though. He also said, "We have taken extraordinary measures to work through unprocessed returns and correspondence, including mandatory overtime by IRS employees, creating and redirecting search teams to address the inventories." So in a recent report to Congress, Rettig also noted the agency is also grossly understaffed. According to the Congressional Budget Office, it has 20,000 fewer staff than it did in 2010, and its budget is roughly 20% less than it was in 2010, when adjusted for inflation. So everybody, in a recent report to Congress, the National Taxpayer Advocate estimated the IRS had a backlog of more than 8.6 million unprocessed individual income tax returns and 2.8 million business returns as of mid-December. It also had close to 5 million pieces of unanswered mail. So there are fresh new challenges facing the IRS this year. Taxpayers will have to reflect the monthly child tax credit payments and the stimulus checks they received last year, further complicating matters and increasing the likelihood of errors and delays in processing returns. IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig also has an announcement for anyone who received a third stimulus check of $1,400. So friends, experts have urged taxpayers to file their tax returns as soon as possible. Chuck Rettig also said you should pay extra attention if you received an economic impact payment or an advanced child tax credit payment in 2021. The IRS has sent out more than 150 million information letters this year, and this will help assure information is reported accurately. So they have also urged taxpayers to file their tax returns as soon as possible, noting that individuals do not need previous returns in order to submit their 2021 returns. Americans are encouraged to file electronically with direct deposit in order to avoid potential delays and Joe Biden also said during a meeting with the state and country leaders that Congress should pass his spending package as a way to fight inflation and help millions of people, adding that the Build Back Better bill would help with so many expenses that many people are facing. Biden told members of the National Association of Counties at a conference that families are getting clobbered by the cost of everyday things. That's why the Build Back Better plan was all about it. So Biden has stressed that his plan would help people who are seeing higher prices in grocery stores and higher gas prices due to inflation. During the meeting, Biden added that he was pleased that states and local governments were implementing funding from the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure law and the American Rescue Plan, a relief package passed by Congress last year. Chuck Schumer is also discussing the other version of the president's Build Back Better bill. Schumer said, "We're going to focus and we're going to come up with caucus agreement on those ideas, and not everyone will agree on the idea." Schumer said Democrats welcome Republican support on the proposals. So what do you think about Joe Biden, everybody, the Democrats and the Republicans? Can they get the job done and send out stimulus payments this year? Tell me what you think in the comments down below.
Answers. They don't. They just attack. And why don't they have answers? Because much of the time it goes after the special interests that support them. So they don't want to deal with the oil companies or the meatpacking companies or the shipping monopolies. So we are focused on getting costs down, and you're going to see a lot of activity in March from us on that issue. Now let's not forget, we're a very strong economy. In President Biden's first year, the economy added 6.6 million new jobs, the most ever in a president's first year. But we're not stopping there. Now that wages are going up, we want to make sure costs go down so the average person has more money in her or his pocket. And that's what our whole lunch was about, or most of our lunch was about today. Various members came up with different ideas. and we're going to focus and we're going to come up with caucus agreement on those ideas. Not everyone will agree with each idea, but there'll be large buy-in, and you'll hear a lot about this from us as we move on. And one of the ways we're reducing costs, of course, is the competition bill to relieve U.S. supply chains. That was bipartisan. And on any of these cost-saving bills, we'll welcome Republicans joining us. If we can get 60 votes on a bunch of them, that's fine. But when we can't, we're still going to move forward. And you'll see some votes on the floor on these as well. We've been pushing for years, for instance, to lower the cost of prescription drugs. We think it's an outrage that insulin should cost $600 per month rather than $35 a month. And we're working with Republicans on antitrust bills to increase competition. So as I said, some will be partisan, some will be bipartisan, but we have solutions, and we're going to focus like a laser on reducing costs. The new proposals and new ideas keep coming, and we're going to propose legislation, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to go back to our states and start talking about these things. Some of the members have already, as you've probably seen in their local newspapers or even reported in the national media. Americans, and so we want to get that done. Our goal is to have wages that have increased stay up, the cost that Americans pay, much of it induced by COVID, go down, and people are much better off. And that is where we're headed. So let me first call on Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. It was a very spirited caucus, and I think we have identified some ideas that we're starting to develop, and the goal is clear. We need a credible, simple approach that American families understand. We want to help these families make ends meet, but we don't want to make inflation worse. We've got to come up with a plan that addresses that. Each family has a different challenge, but we know that inflation is a challenge to all of us that we can deal with. And there are several elements that we think are going to help this economy improve. First, have we reached the COVID corner yet? We don't know the answer to that, but there are promising signs as we watch the hospitalizations and death rate go down, just ever so slightly, but moving in the right direction. Secondly, as Chuck mentioned, that we be more competitive. We need more jobs right here in the United States. We need to make sure that workers have jobs, that businesses are expanding. There are many exciting opportunities. Over the weekend, I was with Pete Buttigieg, Senator Tammy Duckworth, and Governor Pritzker in Normal, Illinois. And we were addressing the new Rivian plant and the impact on the economy of creating 5,000 new jobs in that community. Good American jobs making a product in America for Americans to buy. We think that's a viable part of Illinois' future and America's future. Let's find other opportunities to do exactly the same. Secondly, we got to make sure, as I mentioned,